My name is Brynn and I'm the president of the North Shore Oahu chapter. And I'm also on the Resource Venture Committee, which is how we can be sustainable and regenerative in our economic viability. Aside from memberships, how do we bring in money and resources to our organization?
So what attracted you to the HFUU?
What attracted me to the HFUU is definitely the philosophy, concept, action, intent to be self-sustainable, not only self-sustainable, but self-reliant and working in a regenerative way where you are being able to feed your family or being able to also be a positive influence on your community. And I believe food is a unifier for everybody, whether you are a farmer or not. Everybody can find common ground over food, and good food, healthy food is where I believe HFUU takes it to another level of education, because we're about regenerative agriculture and supporting family farms, and family farms make up the larger percentage of how we and where we get our food. So supporting these entities with mounting paperwork and regulation that is in the agriculture industry. I know that me being a founder of a food company, I also need to work on the supply chain for Hawaii, because being made in Hawaii and grown in Hawaii means that you also need to work on this food system. So it makes perfect sense to be with, like-minded individuals.
So what is your chapter working on right now?
Our chapter is working on really connecting the dots between all the other organizations that are already doing good work. We are creating allies with organizations that maybe would be somebody you considered, maybe having different philosophies or views, but how we can find common ground together. So we work with entities that are in agriculture, fisheries, conservation, like North Shore Land Trust, plastic-free, sustainable coastlines, composting. So everything that really has an effect on creating a regenerative system. So we don't want to create food that has lots of plastic bags and lots of containers. So how do we make that go from top to bottom, from mountain to ocean? Especially living on an island, we have to look at all of those pieces. We can't just say, hey, we're going to grow food, but we have to say, how are we going to grow the inputs that are needed to feed the soil? Because honestly, it's all about creating healthy soil, which is healthy food.
So what impacts have you seen from your chapter on your local community?
I've seen a lot of positive impacts from our community with being involved in HFUU in ways of really lifting up our women farmers as part of the whole piece, because we want to put a face to farming and knowing your farmer, and there are a lot of women involved in this industry. So a lot of some of the myths or the old truths are not really in place anymore. Specifically, it's an old men's industry. I don't know. I've seen more young people, women, getting involved in farming. So I think those are positive impacts. Is just it's changing so fast that it's exciting to see people kind of going back to something, but bringing breathing new life into it and what it looks like. And I think transparency is also a big positive impact, because we are excited about, the hard work that is being done, and we want to promote more of these, regenerative practices that create healthy communities as well, so that there's not runoff in our reef and, all of these other things that we've been dealing with for so long, but how we can regenerate our whole system. So I've seen a lot of great positive impacts through working with HFUU in terms of upgrading our farming practices on the whole community.
Okay, and this is somewhat of an internal question, but what would make your life in HFUU easier?
It would make it easier by collaborating with the other chapters. So if somebody, say like Steve on the Big Island, has these, Korean natural farming coming in from Korea and giving these workshops, I would love to be able to have them come over to Oahu as well. And I also think that would be really good for Hawaii because, there's a lot of issues that we're having in our islands in terms of, fertilizer or pests. And I think HFUU has a lot of these solutions just in their practices with, Korean natural farming or compost teas, all of these things. I think that would make my life a lot easier because a lot of times our board really works hard on creating workshops and putting together speakers, and then the time it takes to actually hold a meeting and plan it, those are all very time intensive, and we want to create more value for our members. Sometimes, we don't have to recreate the wheel by making more gathering days, but we could collaborate on a statewide effort.
And the last one is, what is your message to the world?
My message to the world is Aloha Aina, and it's the love for the land that Hawaii exemplifies in its historical, agricultural, and farming practices from the Native Hawaiian practices of farming, from the ahupua'a systems, from the mountain to the ocean, and what you do on the top has effects and impacts into the ocean, and vice versa. We want to just make sure everything is connected in ways that are pono and good for everybody, not just for the few.